So I remember waking up to a real loud knock on my side door to my room. Now, my room at the time had a side door that led out to the alley. So most of my friends and people that I knew didn't want to bug my parents for anything, right? Through the front door. So they would come through the alley and knock on my back door. And I would let them in. So it was about 6 in the morning. I remember this. I remember it was a real foggy morning. It was late in the year. And I get this loud knock. Bam, bam, bam. And I wake up like, who the hell is knocking on my door at this time? So I open it, and it's my friend Mary. I changed her name, right? So my friend Mary, she just has this crazy look on her face. This look like she has to tell me something. So I'm like, Mary, what the fuck are you doing here? It's fucking 6 o'clock in the morning. She goes, I gotta tell you something. I have to tell you what happened last night with me and Karina. I'm like, what the fuck kind of shit you guys get into now? She goes, no. She goes, this is something different. She goes, I gotta tell you what happened. So I let her in my room, and we're talking quietly because it's fucking 6 in the morning. I don't want my parents to wake up or anything. So she starts telling me, she says, I went over to Karina's house because her boyfriend was murdered maybe about 2 days prior to this. He was murdered out in the streets in LA. And so she said that Karina had called her over because she wanted to try to contact her dead boyfriend, her boyfriend that just recently got murdered, on the Ouija board. So when she told me that, I was already like, that's a huge fucking red flag already. But I didn't say anything. I kept quiet. And when I tell you that this girl was scared fucking out of her wits, she was shaking while she was telling me this story. Now, this experience just happened a couple hours ago, like late at night. So she continues with her story, and she tells me that they're in her room, in Karina's room. They lit candles in a circle, and they're sitting there, just them two. And they put their hands on the planchette, and they start doing their thing. She says she starts calling him out, starts calling for his name, and are you there, and this and that. The usual, what you do to try and summon whoever it is you want to talk to. And she tells me, she goes, all of a sudden, she goes, I felt her room shake. And we both looked at each other, so I knew that she felt it too. We thought it was an earthquake, but we didn't say nothing. We left it like that. She says, and then the lights started flickering off and on. She goes, and we had them off because we had candles on. Okay, she goes, and it started feeling really weird in her room, and it got super cold. She goes, and then all of a sudden, the candles started burning really quick, like they started burning down really fast. She says, Robert, when I tell you I was scared, she goes, I didn't know what the fuck to do. She goes, I was literally frozen in fear. She said she could not move. No matter how hard she tried, she could not get herself to get up and leave. So they're sitting there, them two. She says they start hearing whispers and voices. She says that she couldn't make out what they were saying, but they were hearing things in there. And there was bangs on the wall. And so she started to call out to her boyfriend again. And then all of a sudden, Mary tells me, this is the craziest part. She says, I can see Karina's face, but it kind of like got distorted. And then all of a sudden, I saw these, she says, like these red things coming out of her eyes. And then she says, at that exact moment when I saw it, Karina says, oh man, my eyes are getting watery. And she starts rubbing her eyes. And she says, wait, Karina, what is that? And then she grabbed a candle and put it up to her face. She was bleeding tears of blood, she said. It was blood tears coming out of her eyes. And she said that she just froze with the candle in front of her face. And Karina's like, what? What's wrong? What? Why are you looking at me like that? She says, Karina, you have blood coming out of your eyes. She says, what are you talking about? And she ran to her mirror in the room and she started screaming. She had literal blood tears coming out of her eyes. So she says when she started screaming, all hell broke loose. That all her personal things in her room started flying all over the fucking place. There was banging on the walls. There was growling. There was whispers and voices. She says the candles just like went off. Totally turned off. And she was just, that girl Karina was just like running around her room. Just, she lost it. So then the mom comes in, Karina's mom comes in, she says, and she's like, what are you guys doing? What's happening? She goes, look at Karina's eyes. And she's like, what? The mom totally tripped out first because she saw that they were working with the Ouija board. And then she looked at Karina's eyes, her daughter's eyes, and she still had blood coming out of her eyes. So now she said it was all down her face. And she says, Robert, when I say it was real blood, she goes, it was blood. I couldn't even smell the blood. It was blood tears. So we're all freaking out. We're all tripping out. We're all screaming. Everyone's screaming. And the mom says, stay right here. I'm going to come back. I'm going to go get the car out of the garage. And I'm going to come back and get you. And we're going to take you to the hospital. So she says in the meantime, they ran downstairs and they're sitting on the couch. And they're seeing all kinds of shit. She says at that point, we're seeing shadows. Lights are flickering. We're hearing noises. So she says we're waiting on the mom. And the mom finally comes back, but the mom walks in real slow. And she said that her mom's face, Karina's mom's face, was white. She says, when I say it was white, she said that her face was like milk color white. And they were telling her, what's wrong? What's wrong? She goes, there was something out there that wasn't letting me bring the car out. She says, but I think I got the car out. She said that she was kind of like, wasn't all there mentally, right? She was just traumatized, I guess. And that they were freaking out on her. So they ran to the car, took her to the hospital, and, you know, they ran tests on her and everything. They couldn't find anything physically or scientifically wrong with her. They took drug tests. They thought, you know, she was on drugs or whatever. So nothing happened. They came home. But my friend Mary said on the way home that Mary asked the mother, what was it that you saw that you came in looking like that, like you were so afraid? She says, when I went and I opened the garage door, I went into the car. Well, she said she was going to the car to open the driver door. And when she was opening it, she noticed that the garage door was closing on her. And she says, back there in the apartments where they live, and I remember the apartments where they live, it was always freaking dark, man. Always dark. So she says, I couldn't see anything, but I could see the door closing. And I'm like, hey, who's closing the door? And she said she looked a little bit more to her right, and she saw this shadow being, she said it probably could have been about 8 feet tall. And he kind of ducked under to look at her. But she said she couldn't see no face. It was just a silhouette, a shadow man. But he was super tall, and he was closing the garage door on her. And that apparently that the mom was cussing it out and trying to get the fuck out of here and whatever else she was saying. And I guess it left. But she said that I didn't pull the car out yet. I thought I did, but I came back inside because I was so scared. But when Mary, my friend Mary said when they walked out, the car wasn't pulled out and the garage door was closed. So they had to pull it out. So my friend Mary was like, I don't know what to do now. I don't know if I'm going to be haunted forever. And I'm like, man, first of all, why the fuck would you come to my house and bring that shit over here? You know what I mean? But that story always stuck with me. It was always a very scary story because I knew these two females. We lived across the street from each other, and I knew these two females very well. And the crazy part of that is I never saw that girl Karina again after that. Her and her mom ended up moving. So the last time that I saw her, I want to say was probably a week prior to that incident, and after that I never saw her again. For me, I won't fuck around with those Ouija boards. I know you can get real curious about it, but you gotta be very careful because you're opening up portals. But for some of you,
Some of you are just gonna do it regardless. And you're probably gonna fuck around and find out.